Hello and welcome. I am Matt Kaminsky. My role with Central Ag Supply is farm management support and technical product specialist. After 27 years of holding our traditional open house, 2020 has thrown us a curveball. We are excited to introduce Central Ag Supply's first ever virtual open house. Central Ag Supply started in 1991 as a Surge dealer. Surge and Westphalia merged in the early 2000s, and today the company is known as GEA Farm Technologies. Together with GEA and Central Ag Supply, have provided our dairymen with the technology to help deliver a quality product from the milk stall to the milk hall. To ask questions during this presentation, hit the chat button at the bottom of the screen and change the drop down to panelists and attendees. We will answer them throughout the presentation as prompted. Now I'd like to introduce you to our guest speakers. Steph Famaville, Regional Sales Manager, Scott Pilgrim, Hygiene Specialist, and Jeff Kirkberg with Central Ag Supply Sales Specialist. Thank you for your time and we appreciate your business.
Thank you, Matt, for that introduction. As you said, my name is Steph Famaville. I am the Regional Sales Manager for the Central Region of GEA, and Scott's one of my team members, and we're here today along with Jeff from Central Ag. So some topics that we like to go over. We're going to talk both about conventional milking and robotic milking. We're going to talk our stalls, our milking equipment offering, some stanchion equipment and sanitation stuff, vacuum equipment, crowd gate, cooling equipment. Then we're going to jump into the, I'd say, farm management side and talk about Future Cow, Cow Scout, and then we're going to finish up with Dairy ProQ. So when we look at conventional milking, we're looking at stalls, milking equipment, pulsation, shells and liners, sanitation equipment, vacuum equipment, crowd gate, and cooling equipment. The T8800 is our rotary platform that we use. Just kind of jumping into that, we do have parallel offering that we'll talk on a little bit later, as well as some herringbone and some stanchion stuff. But since we're really migrating into that rotary market segment and where that's going to, the unique thing about what GEA has as far as their offering, we have a platform and a cabinet that we scale depending on the size of the farm. Anywhere on the small end up to 120 stalls. We are exploring options larger than that for the mega farms of the world. But I'd say us here in South Central Wisconsin, you know, we tend to top out around that 80 mark. We see a lot 50, 60, 70, and a lot down in that 40 neighborhood as well. Really looking at getting the cows on and off the platform in a safe and efficient manner and being cow comfort minded when we look at what we're doing. We do have the opportunity to look at a 75 or a 90 degree. Really, it kind of depends on what parlor you're coming out of. If you're a herringbone or if you're a parallel parlor today, we have that option. We look at both drop down and non-drop arms in our offering. Again, depends on what you're used to today. We have both options there. We have everything from a real basic rotary, just milking cows, to fully metered systems that give you all sorts of information that you can use in your farm management. Here's a little closer picture of what is in that T8000 product offering. The 8800 is I'd say our 24/7 type of a facility, or those folks that are really looking at making a longer term investment. It's really a platform that we can grow and build on. It's meant for an industrial and a full-time farm. The 8900 is what most of us here in this area would be more comfortable with using. It's got a little bit longer breaks between our milking periods. Still a very durable system that's a little bit closer to what our heritage rotary has been in the past. So we look at some features on both of these rotary platforms. Again, this low profile cabinet, and really what that's meant for is it's smooth, it's rounded, it's cow comfort, it's cow friendly. It allows them to load and unload without any sharp corners or edges to get snagged on. We really hone in on the smart construction. Serviceability and maintenance are key. We all know it's just part of what goes into day-to-day milking on a farm. So we want to try to make those things easy to do state-of-the-art detachers, how do we get in and out of what we need to do from a regular maintenance standpoint. Again, that 75-degree or 90-degree stall angles, we can make some adjustments there depending on what you're looking and what your cows are used to, and then also the size of your cows. Some herds are a straight Jersey herd, some are Holstein crosses. Those cows vary in size quite drastically. And we have the ability to customize that based on what your herd preference and your management style is. The last thing to touch on is surfacing, and this is a hot topic right now. We got composite decks. There's folks out there, we use a concrete deck. What do we want to put on top? What do you want your cows to stand on? And, the main thing that we offer is we have a surface sealed deck. I'd say about 95% of those that I see are going to have a rubber coating on them. Again, you want that cow to be comfortable. You want her to be happy when she's on there, so you get some quick milk letdown. Some other things when we look at the operator, the person that's got to do the work here, again, everything is easy to get at. You can see her udder. You can get at what you need to get at. We offer both the Posi Form and the Posi Guide. And if you're trying to figure out what they are, the picture on the top there is showing the Posi Guide. That is when she detaches, everything stays up above that deck platform. Again, same system, very similar to what we use in our parallels and in our herringbone parlors. It's all what you're used to. If you're one of those operators that prefers things drop down and out of the way, we have that option with the Posi Form where you're dropping down and underneath the deck. Both utilize that Posi ball form to keep everything kind of in line the way we want it to be, so we don't have hoses kinking and pinching throughout milking. The other thing to kind of keep in mind, we do have a button-free attachment option where we're moving. As soon as the operator starts to move that arm, it'll automatically turn the vacuum on and the pulsation on as far as to start the milking process, and it goes into the milk mode. It's part of that Posi Form option, though. It's not part of the Posi Guide. So sometimes that's the deciding factor. Again, it's about 50-50 on farms that I've seen in this part of the state, in the Midwest. It's really operator preference. So taking a look at some of the technology behind it, there's a touchscreen monitor that sits right by where you load the cows. It's literally a touch of the button, and it does work with milking gloves on. This is kind of a unique thing to see. You can see where cows are at. You can dive into it. This is kind of the scaled out version that we are showing here on the screen. It does plug into and interact with a lot of different parlor and herd management softwares. So now that we've got you warmed up and maybe even slightly dizzy, if you haven't seen our rotary platform options before, we're going to take a step and switch gears and talk a little bit more about some of our other milking offerings that we have. You'll hear us talk about the Magnum, the vertical lift, the 90i. We've called it by a few different names, but really this is just our parallel stall offering with our vertical lift. So the cows come in, parlor, it's dropped down. They're already sitting in position. We hit the indexing button. She backs up to us to milk. When it comes time for exiting, and this is really why a lot of folks choose this option, you can let her go individually, or you can let the whole group go together. That gate opens up and the cows walk out and head on down the exit lane. So it's a nice option that allows a faster throughput than maybe what a herringbone style would have offered in the past. The parallel really can do that in a lot less space. And that's really the main thing with this. It's entry and exit speeds, and it's the space that we have available that we're milking in. So here's a screenshot, a picture of a farm not that far from here. The nice other thing with this is that we can add on if we need to. So if we know we're going to have a planned phased out addition, maybe a son or a daughter joining the farm, or we need to add a few extra cows, we have the ability to do that. And really the thing with that, I'm not going to get into the details and lose you in how that all works. I'm gonna point you towards Jeff and the folks at Central Ag. They can get you walk through how that works, and you can really look at how that process goes if you need to add those stalls on. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jeff.
So we also have other offerings for stalls. We can help your farm decide what's going to be the best fit for your facility, depending on whether you want something fully automated, like we talked before on the rotaries. We can do this in different stall configurations. We offer a line, even the economy Parabone Euro line that is we have rapid exit if you want, but it's also can keep costs down. We can have vacuum operated entry and exit gates, which eliminates need for an air compressor, use the existing systems that's there. So it really is something where we can sit down with you and build the facility to suit your needs. ID systems is becoming more and more popular in management of facilities. GEA offers ear, neck, and leg options, and each option has different places around the dairy industry. Some people don't want to manage the neck collars. They just want basically animal information that's in the when they're in the milking stall. So that would be an ear tag ID. We can do individual stall identification with any of these types of ID, or we can do just the portal type system, which is at the beginning of the parlor when they enter in. We do find that the individual stall ID is much more accurate. So people that are looking for very specific data, want to have all their management data as correct as possible, we would suggest going with that. Later on, we'll see where the neck or leg tag options can come in, and it kind of works in with our Cow Scout program that we'll talk about later, where we can start monitoring the animals out in the freestall barn. Dairy Plan C21 is our herd management system, has a wide range of things that we can do with it. We can monitor health, herd health, reproduction. We will take information from the milking parlor, download it, and we can create reports. We can show graphs on actually routines of the milkers that are during a milker shift to see if they're actually following protocols just by steps that are taken. We can also manage our systems from the Dairy Plan's software. We can adjust things like pulsation rates, parlor detacher settings. We can watch our washing system to make sure that we're getting performance in our washing system to try and head off any issues that are going on. The nice thing about the dairy plan setup is that we can go and set this up with however the farm wants it. We can have reports set up so that they're printed out at the same time every day, make it user friendly for vet staff or anybody that's coming in here, consultants, so they can see the information they want right at their fingertips. Part of that also in something else I feel in this area is becoming more popular, auto select sort gates. We can sort up to 5 different directions depending on how the system's set up. We use photo eyes to track where the cattle are at in the system to keep gates positioned properly so that we are accurate with our sorting. We use 2 antennas on the sort gate system so that it helps with speed, because we let the sort gate kind of gets an idea when the animal's coming that needs to be sorted out, and the second antenna will actually shift the gates to end up where they're going into the pen she needs to go into. We will then go into some of the milking equipment, the basics on for any of our systems. I'll turn it back over to Steph.
So not only do we have the parlors and the parlor stalls and ID systems and some herd management software, obviously we have the nuts and bolts of the milking system as well. Everything from the physical unit, the claw, liners, shells, pulsators, vacuum systems, detachers, sensors, milk meters, ID monitors. There's some pictures here. The classic 300 will go into a little more detail. That's our most common and widely known claw. It's very recognizable, and sometimes now often trying to be repeated in the industry. It's been our mainstay in our offering for a number of years. We do have IQ, QQ, and Apollo. We're really seeing a changeover and resurgence here in liners. I'm looking at GQ. Pulsators, there's a few options there that we can look at. Vacuum pumps, Jeff will touch on a little bit later. We talk about stanchion detachers, and folks, when we say stanchion, I don't want you to think the old stanchion that grandpa had in the barn. It's a term commonly used in the industry in place of tie stall barn. So just if you're one of those folks that fits you, just kind of hone in on that as we're talking about it. And again, we have quite a few detachers that we'll go into. The first ones we'll look at, you'll hear us talk about DMAX and Demetron. That kind of robotic name, I guess, if you will, has been part of our naming structure for a while. DMAX 55 is pretty much just your basic detacher with flow-through sensors. It's a nice economical option that allows you to have the sensor capability in the detacher. The other 2 on the right are a little bit more common. The Demetron 70 is really the one that a lot of folks grab because it does have our first spot there where we can get into the milk weight. That if you're after a little bit more data, the Demetron 75 is the one then that we partner with the ID program. So really it depends on what your management style is and where you're looking to go. The neat thing is you can start with one and make a transition into something different as your farm and management styles change. So looking at pulsators, I'll let Jeff do this part. He's a lot better at it than I am.
So there's GEA offers a range, a different assortment of pulsators. The AutoPulse Apex series pulsators really has brought pulsation adjustments kind of to the forefront. We're able to really fine tune with everything going out in the dairy between flow rates, different size different flow rates of animals, different sizes of or different types of inflations, vacuum level changes. People have, or dairymen out there have different requirements of what they want to do. Using the AutoPulse pulsator, that is a detacher-driven pulsator. We can also set it up as a standalone system if needed for a competitive system. But we can really fine-tune and optimize the pulsation to be to create the quickest, safest milk out for that animal. And the nice thing being that we connect our pulsation with our detachers when it's set up that way. We can shut the pulsator off at the end of milking. Leads to a much quieter operating parlor. Plus, we keep the wear and tear down on that pulsator.
Yeah, that was always the hated, dreaded noise in the milking stall barn when you'd hear an inflation or something slip. And I think we've all know that noise a little more familiar with it than we'd like to be. That usually resulted in a parent screaming and somebody saying, "Hey, go catch that cow quick." That is awesome that we can integrate that into there. Kind of again, not taking a step back in time, but keeping something. If it's not broke, don't try to fix it. That this classic 300 is really tied into that. We've had a few different versions of this claw, but that 300 core has stayed there throughout the years. I grew up on a stall barn that was originally one of the first systems put in, and folks are still milking in that today. Looking at going about 40 years on a classic 300 design, and they're migrating into the E now. But the nice thing about it, it doesn't matter if Junior's in there helping you out, or if you're on the tail end of your milking career. It's got a nice, lightweight, durable design. This thing can handle the wear and the tear of the cows, whether you're in a stall barn or you're looking at a herringbone or a parallel parlor, or you're even in the rotary parlor setting. It is one of our consistent pieces that's all the way through in all of those offerings. Everybody likes it because it was one of the first jars or bowls you could see the milk in. It wasn't stainless. It was this big migration into plastic. We've taken that and reshaped it just slightly. So we could really have a little bit better milk flow. It's got a high capacity outlet on there. That's where the 300 comes from. It's a 300 cc bowl. It's part of our naming structure. It's got a nice design to it. It's easy to clean. It kind of sits in the natural formation of the udder itself. So looking at shells and liners, what do we do to put on this? I'm going to let Scott talk a little bit about that.
I'm going to interject here, guys. I got a couple
All right.
questions for you before we leave the equipment side.
Okay.
I think I'm going to leave this one to Jeff a little bit. What is the advantage or disadvantage to a rotary parlor versus a parallel? I know we've dealt with certain farms that they want the redundancy of if one side of the parlor goes down, we can still use the other. Can you touch on that? How they go about managing?
Well, I think maybe in the past, maybe there were some concerns on a rotary parlor when they first came on. There was a few hiccups to where they weren't working as smooth. So we have a tendency to stay what's in our comfort zone. So that parallel parlor, and that's one of the things that we do when we set up parlors and line parlors, parallel or parabone or whatever. We try and create them as two separate working entities. So if something is down on one side, we can keep milking. I think over time, GEA has proven to the industry that they're rotary parlors that just don't stop turning. They have backups built into them. With their the new on the 8900 with the new gang roller system, anything that used to be an issue, somewhat of a trouble in the past with the rollers, I feel like they've really addressed that. Now with the 8800 with the individual wheels, if we have a problem with the wheel, we literally can just take it out of operation and get at it when we can get a little downtime. They have the drives are set up so if one drive backs off, another one comes right online to take care of it. So as far as the 24/7, the longevity or the reliability, I think that the answers have taken care of over time, but it still comes down to what you're comfortable with. So nobody should ever be afraid of either one. You can be very successful and milk a lot of cows in a short amount of time, a relatively short amount of time with any system. We spend a lot of, not to kind of get off subject, but I feel like we do a good job here at Central Ag, spending time listening to the customer, and we really, it's about cow flow. How do we get the animals to the machine? How do we milk them when we're on there, take care of them while they're on the machine, and then get them away from there? Because we can have as many cows as you want, but if we can't create a nice, safe, good flow for that animal, we're just bottlenecking them. So
Sure. That's an excellent point too. That leads me into another question. When we get into the planning stages, if I'm an interested prospect, how do I go about that working with Central Ag Supply, and at what stage do you want to be involved?
We want to be involved right away. The biggest thing is, and again, it goes back to comfort level. So if you haven't worked with us in the past, you can just give us a call, get a note to myself. We will get back to you, or somebody else here at the dealership will get back to you. We'll start the process of trying to narrow down what you're looking for. Sometimes you just don't know. So we have to help you explore the possibilities. The next thing is that I highly recommend that people have a layout or a proposed idea of what they want their facility to look like before we get everybody else involved. You can cut down on a lot of, we don't build buildings, we don't pour concrete. So once we help you find that layout, which we have a staff here that Michaela will, and I can work with you to put a plan together, something that can go out to builders, and then you can get more apples to apples type idea. So you get a good solid budget number. So when we move forward with these projects, we're not going back and looking at something that maybe somebody looked at a little differently.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've seen some of those CAD drawings that we've had before, and they're very detailed, and it makes the process pretty seamless. I'd also like to know a little bit about the importance of backups. Something I know that we've stressed in the past is having 2 vacuum pumps per se, or a redundant air compressor system. I think we touched on that a little bit with the parallel parlor, but when we get into even the rotary portion, it's just it's something that I wonder if we really give enough thought sometimes in the industry.
Well, and it's coming more and more. And actually, we've had the opportunity to work with some great farms in the past that have been very open-minded to that idea of having backup. And especially if it's one thing if we're having planned downtime, maybe we can be a little careful on what we do on backups because we can always make up some time. But as dairies grow and they get more involved, and management's not always going to be able to be there, we need to have systems in place for backup. We try to, all the way down to on a direct load system in the milk wash reservoir, we want to try and create a backup system. So if the main pump goes down, we can still get milk going through that plate cooler and get it onto the truck. Extra, in the cooling side of thing, designing it with extra load. We don't know when all of a sudden the well pump's just going to stop working. Sure. And that can bring things to a halt. Extra vacuum pumps. We'll go through some of this in some of the slides coming up, but yeah, backups is a very big, important part of things. The other thing is that also allows us with a backup, we don't lose any time. We keep everything consistent. The parlor stays on schedule. But our service team is also, I feel, second to none in helping train our dairymen that want to take advantage of it on how to maintain and repair some of their own equipment. And then we start working with them to keep parts and or maybe even motors, things of that nature in stock so they can take care of it. And a lot of times, even it might be just, hey, they got to pick up the phone and call us and say, hey, how do we do this quick? And we might have to go back there in a day or two just to verify that everything's all right, but they didn't stop. So that kind of planning process is huge in dairies today. And it starts from the beginning of a project. Even on an existing farm, we need to go in and start looking at these things and say, okay, what is going to be your biggest hang up if you have this go down? What is it going to affect? So what value to put on that? And maybe we add a little room in a utility room and add some extra equipment to cover that. But all very good questions and all things that we should be paying attention to on today's farms.
And I think that's just great because you touched on bringing down cost of ownership, mitigating risks on the emergency end of things. And at the end of the day, it's an upfront cost, but we're saving money in the long term and headaches. So I think those are really good points, Jeff. So we had one question come in as well. 2 questions come in, excuse me. Does the Dairy Rotor T8000 work best for a specific breed of cow?
Not specifically. It really encompasses all of them. I've seen everything from straight Jersey herds onto there to some Jersey Holstein crosses to some Holstein crossbreeds. So really, there isn't anything specific that I've seen that's been thrown at it that it hasn't been able to handle. when in regards to specific breeds. I have seen some customization done though, based on overall size of cows, whether we narrow the cabinet up a little bit or widen it out. And that's just something, it's part of that planning and that consulting process, really, when we get into it, being able to have those open conversations on the front end, have some discussions and some thoughts about where we see that farm going, both from what you're currently doing today and what the next generation's going to do. You know, we're putting an infrastructure piece in here. This isn't like a tractor or a car. If you don't like it, you don't just hit the button and it disappears and you get a different one. This is there and it's there to stay. So you really want to make sure you vet all of those discussions. And we've seen some trends, you know, really in the industry too with cows. I mean, we've seen these on registered show cow herds and all the way down to, kind of where I grew up with the grade A, just regular milk cows and a little bit of everything in there.
Sure. Well, cool. We do have one more question, but I'm going to hold off on that. I think we have a little bit more in our presentation that'll add to that discussion. So, Scott, if you want to discuss some liner and some things on the hygiene side.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
All right. Well, we will get into, our liners and shells, kind of the pieces of equipment that touches that cow in the milking process. So we'll talk a little bit about our GQR and our new feature, our anti-twist shell that we just kind of released here not too long ago. So underneath that shell has I call it a castle top. Just keeps that liner from twisting, whether it be during the milking process or taking them in and out of jetter cups, making sure that liner is straight in there all the time. It's a 2500 milking liner with our GQR. Shell's very lightweight, but still sturdy enough. So we don't see that oval with the plastic shell. Very durable, easy to clean as well. So GQR, it is our GEA's number one selling liner in the world. So we're pretty happy with that and have seen a lot of success with those sales as well. Then to complement the GQR, we have our GQ, which is our silicone version of that, added to our portfolio, still with that same anti-twist shell. And then this liner is good for 5,000 milkings. So kind of the features and benefits of that, like I say, with the anti-twist, the castle top, keeping that straight at all times. We have the triangles on the top of the shell in the liner to match up. So it's very easily visible to see, make sure that liner is always straight. Reinforcement at the end for the claw. So it reduces the amount of air inlet during attachment when you're attaching in that parlor, which is also going to help with some slips and stuff with the other cows milking. And then patented bumper on the top. So we make sure that liner's all the way onto the claw with that bumper. And then that allows you to easily pull that liner back off during changing. So the GQ, the kind of the overview of the shell, an aerodynamic design, vertical indents for added grip, so easy to hold on to. Sometimes shells can get slippery when they get wet in a parlor. This actually just kind of that design, so easy for those milkers to grab a hold to. That bottom flare, keeps your hands centered on that shell, so when you're grabbing it, just kind of feels good to you, right where you should be holding on to that shell. Very easy to clean. So the shells are easily to keep clean, smooth, very smooth surface there with plastic. And then the weight is also very lightweight. So little over 4 ounces of shell. So we kept it lightweight and durable. So we'll move on to sanitation equipment and I'll hand it over to Jeff.
Well, I think one of the things that really be exciting to see long-term with that and with the shell and that inflation is if we're going to be able to, if that stays locked better on the bottom, we talked about keeping the moisture and the debris out of that in that shell, that's going to go a long way to keeping pulsators cleaner.
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very good point. Yes.
So
Yep.
that's exciting to see because I don't think that there's enough emphasis put on things like that today.
Yep. Good point.
So in our sanitation line, there's a lot of stuff that we could be talking about here. The main things what we wanted to bring across our compass pipeline washer. We can use this. You can use it as a standalone washer. You can have it with a parlor control on it. We can use this in our basic systems. You know, we use this in stanchion barns all the way up to rotary parlors. Basically, we can control air injectors, the diverter valves, the wash tees. We also can set signals for doing blowdown and stuff like that out of here. Also for longer systems, we got to keep them clean. It's a little hard to see in that picture off to the side, but the box on the left on the picture on the left basically is a peristaltic tube. So we have different options for dispensing chemicals automatically. We like to, as much as possible, our route guys do a very good job of trying to keep the chemical barrels filled. We kind of handle the chemicals for our route customers as much as possible. That way we don't have to worry about somebody getting injured that's not used to handling them. Nice thing with the automatic dispensing, same thing. We don't have people pumping it into cups, dumping it into wash vats. Plus, it's also very accurate. And if we want to change a chemical, go to a different type of washing system, we can make some changes fairly quick on the Compass Plus and move forward. We have pictured a milk wash vat. As we get more and more used to using chillers to cool or direct load systems, we bring the milk in from the parlor into a milk wash reservoir. Again, here it says 80 to 400 gallons. Biggest reason for this is that we can, as parlors milk, you'll see this a little bit more on your line parlors than you will on rotary parlors. Rotary parlors keep more of a consistent flow of milk coming, but our line parlors, especially if we get guys that are really trying to push cows through, we can get slugs of milk. And what this allows us to do, it brings all that milk into one location. We run it on a frequency drive. We can pump it through that plate cooler as slow and as gently as possible. Gets it cooled down to the proper temperature before it goes into that storage vessel, whether it's a tanker or a bulk tank, and it's just as gentle as possible. And on the flip side, then we go to wash our parlor. We can wash the whole system out of there. The direct load system will be washed with the pump on the bottom, but we're also washing the parlor with this vessel. So we don't have multiple vessels in the milk room, saving space. The one nice thing one of the things that we try to do here is we try and size. We look at the size facility, what it is today or what it could future go to. And my suggestion is I always try and size the wash vat big enough so I can put all the wash water in that vat versus adding chemical or water later. That those type of systems always can lead to some troubles down the road. If we can put all the water, all the chemical in at one time and go, when we start talking milk wash reservoirs from one size to the other, there's really not that much difference in cost. Let's build the room big enough and get the right piece of equipment put inside of it. Vacuum pumps, this is kind of what we were talking about before with Matt. Here's pictured a couple of, I believe these are 25 horse vacuum pumps. This is what we like to see is a dual setup. The next slide, we're going to be talking about VODs. The coated lobe vacuum pumps, they run quiet. They don't build up with material as much. Something on a lobe style pump, you have to be very careful if you do get some debris, and sometimes occasionally you'll get some milk carryover. You'll get some buildup inside that vacuum pump, and we got to keep it cleaned out. But the Teflon coated lobes does a very nice job on the GEA vacuum pumps of keeping it easier to clean and maintain. Right along with that is our vacuum on demand, the frequency drives. You'll see we chose this slide, this picture. Basically, you can set it up different ways. Some people put 2 frequency drives in. We kind of go by what the dairy wants. This system was actually set up where there's an auto switching box. So we have one drive, auto switching box. We have it set up so we can run it manually with just a contactor if we had to. And the 2 boxes on the left is we have auto flushers put onto the vacuum pump so that as they operate, they will flush themselves and keep them clean. Another management thing, we don't have to worry the dairy about keeping track of something like that. So again, many options for different sizes and how you want to handle it. Also, all the way, we also do, vacuum regulators. We have a full line of vacuum regulators. Say frequency drive is something that you just don't want to work with. We go with, and very dependable and easy to maintain. Moving along, we're kind of getting out of the utility room, going into the holding area. This is what brings the cows in, the crowd gate. GEA makes a phenomenal crowd gate, the promotion hydraulic gate. We've got a couple of these out, pretty happy with them. Very smooth operation. You've got, up to 50-foot span. The nice thing is that we can get that gate up out of the way. The next group of cows can come in while they're loading. We can be bringing the gate down. Just something, the one thing, I always, a little side note, we try and work with customers to make them understand that it's a pen shortening device, not a bulldozer. So if we have problems with cows that are moving to the parlor, we got to figure out where it is on the other end of things. Moving in some cooling equipment. GEA also does offer bulk tanks. We didn't put any in this presentation. I think, again, as things are consolidating, we're starting to have more conversations with people all the time, even using chillers with older bulk tanks. Maybe the bulk tank has got a leaky circuit or something like that. They don't really want to go and invest in that because who knows, maybe down the road they're going to go to direct load. Mm-hmm. So we can adapt chiller systems. Really, there's too many options to talk about. It gets a little confusing, but we can take and put a direct load or a chiller system in that fits your farm, and we can anything from things that are cabinet style chiller where we put condensing units with them remotely, or we can get package systems where it all comes in one package and we run power out to it and run glycol to the plate cooler, and it's pretty much that simple. So more or less, never be afraid of a chiller. It is a good thing, and we can work with a farm to decide what's going to fit for them. Also, GEA offers a great line of plate coolers. Again, we can work with the folks there, help sizing plate coolers. This is definitely an expandable thing because there's a lot of times where, well, this is where we're going to be. We might not get bigger, but we might. So we can put a plate cooler in that's got so many plates in it, and then the frame is actually designed so as they do expand, the frame itself is big enough to handle it. We just start getting plate kits in and stack in there and increase the capacity. The other thing is that the plates come from anywhere from just well water plates that would, they call them T4s. They go up to T20s. It's just kind of the frame size. So anything from just a well water type plate cooler, just take some of the heat, the BTUs out of the milk, up to this one pictured here has got a double boss intermediate grid in it. So we're actually on one half of it, we're cooling the milk with well water, and then it switches over to cooling with glycol on the other. So we don't have two separate assemblies, all one assembly. We're able to keep everything nice and compact.
Yeah, those plate coolers really picked up in popularity as we got into, looking a little bit more at energy consumption on a farm too. That was something that a lot of us didn't really worry about. And then we all made the migration from single phase to 3-phase. And then it was like, holy cow, my electric bill's going like crazy. What are some other things we can use? The nice thing with that is if you are limited in what you have available from a groundwater or current well situation, it does give you another option to get at some hot water, whether you're feeding calves or just have it ready to go for when it comes time for wash up.
Mm-hmm. Hey, I got a question regarding the plate cooler system. What do we do with that water after it goes through the plate cooler?
We would like to reuse it into other facets. That is probably another thing that there's certain things, there's several different topics that I think when we start looking at facilities, back to the layout side of things, we go into we look more at just where the cows are going to be.
Mhm.
And it actually takes more time to plan out everything around it than it does where the cows are going to be. So yes, second use water systems. We're going to, we want to take that well water, because not every time when somebody does some work on their farm do they want to have to drill a new well. So instead of having to, what we like to do is put that into a system, put it into a tank, and use pumps to then water our cows with it. We can use it to wash down the parlor later. So now when the system is actually going into wash, we can actually use the well to move the water through the washing system, and we don't have to worry about the plus. And I'm sure many people have experienced this before. After morning milking, the cows go out and everybody's drinking the water out of the waters, and there's not enough for the well, and it goes to wash the system, and it just trickles into the wash vat. Second use water systems can go a long way into helping you make them big enough, put enough water in them so that when you want to wash her in your downtime, there's enough water there to keep the cattle fed, keep everything washed up.
There again, we're being efficient, reusing the water and just kind of putting our green stamp on things and being able to reuse.
Well, you're giving it one or two more uses before it goes in the lagoon, because everything goes to lagoons got to be hauled out on the field.
Absolutely. That's awesome. We did notice that the play cooler is not in the milk room. Could you touch on that?
Everybody has got, I think every dealership's got their own little twist on things. We started a long time ago. We like to put the plate cooler, especially on direct load systems. We like to keep that plate cooler actually in what we call the soap room. We try and create a separate room. And part of that reason is there's a lot of piping and valving and stuff that goes in with the plate cooler. It keeps our milk room down in size. It keeps some of the mess and the clutter out of the milk room. And to be quite honest, I think the inspectors kind of like that a little bit better, because it's just a little bit cleaner environment. And we don't have to the milk room gets to be so big the way it is, and just trying to keep things more compact.
Cool. Awesome. Scott, I got a couple questions for you regarding the liners. Can you tell me a little bit about if a dairyman wants to go with a GQ liner, whether it be the GQ or GQR?
Yep.
Is there a program with the shells?
Yes, there is. So if you decide to go with GQ or GQR, either one, we actually provide those shells to you to go with that liner, and that's as long as you're on our liners, we're providing shells to you. We feel it's kind of they work well together, so we want you to use them together, kind of give you the tool to use the liner most efficiently for your dairy.
So then if I'm knowing this right, with our route department within Central Ag Supply, we do an exchange program. We try to have two sets of shells. Does GEA help with that? And how does our rotation completely work within Central Ag?
Yeah, so Central Ag Supply here does a great job with that exchange program. So we provide two sets of shells for that dairy. And when you go to change shells on your dairy, they'll bring out a whole new set of shells with liners already pulled. Take your old ones back. They pull out the old liners, clean up the new shells, wash them, make sure they're clean. Kind of like Jeff touched earlier, keeping the dirt out of the shell, which in turn is going to help keep your pulsation lines clean, your pulsators clean. Just keeping all that.
That's
in
pretty
check.
awesome, because at the end of the day, then we're saving the dairyman some time. He doesn't have to worry about it. And it's another thing, just like the low flushers you had mentioned, it's one less thing he has to worry about. We can change those when they're due. We keep track of that for you.
Correct.
That's
Yes.
awesome.
Yep.
One question that came in from Windy Hill. How does the GQR and composite shells work in a stall barn wash vat? Is there some changes that have recently come that might help us with that?
Yeah. So we have just recently they'll be released here soon. We actually have a weighted shell, a green shell, just like we had pictured, but it has a stainless steel insert in there. So if you do have some in a wash vat in tie stall barns, you might see some floating. With that weighted shell, helps keep those down into the water a little better if you feel the need. We have seen some fairly good success with those green shells in a wash vat. Just it all kind of depends on how tight your units are sitting in there.
Sure.
But if that is an issue or you feel you want a little extra weight, we have those weighted shells.
Well, that's cool. It seems like
coming
you're
down.
just starting to think of it all. So
Yeah. Yep.
we're evolving and adapting to the industry. So that's
Yeah.
exciting. All right, I'm gonna let you guys get back to it and I'll quit bothering you.
So it looks like we are going to touch base a little bit on our Future Cow prep system, our brush system to help with prepping your cows, getting those cows clean and consistent in your parlor. So the future of your herd's milk quality starts with consistency, and that always seems to be somewhat of an issue on just about every dairy, is keeping that prep consistent, getting the teat ends clean, make sure we're producing good quality milk. So with our brush, seems like we improve on that consistency well, just able to keep those milkers consistent from first hour of the shift all the way up to the 8th hour or 10th hour, or some of these guys are milking 12 hour shifts. So our automation trends, as you can see, back in 2017, we had 188,000 cows using Future Cow. As of October of this year, we got 310,000 cows using our brush system. So the trend is trending upward. We're seeing some good success with the brush. So the Future Cow, keeping the most valuable piece of your real estate on your dairy farm, keeping those teat ends clean and making sure you're milking dry, clean cows. Some key benefits of it, so we streamline that prep, keep the milkers consistent, getting better milk quality, reducing some of that clutter in whether it's in your parlor or in your equipment room with your towels, maybe some extra barrels of pre-dip there, getting rid of that because we're doing it all with our brush system. So consistency leads to improved milk quality. The better we can do on the start of that prep procedure, the better that milk is going to be for us. So just looking at kind of how our brush system works, as you can see, our cover in there, we have a baffle, making sure we keep those teat ends straight down into that brush, so we're able to hit the bottom brush as well. And you also see our bottom brush has a bilayer designed that way to properly help clean that teat end as well, which is the most important part of the cow. Our prep solution, we use a chlorine dioxide based solution made specifically to kill fast and dry fast. So it works very well for cleaning, soil removal, mild on the skin, and in that drying fast as well. So if we've got some guys going very quickly with their prep, this allows that fast drying, so we're not attaching milkers to a wet teat end. Here's a couple different blending systems that we have. We have our GEA on-farm blending system, has an alarm on there, so it will alarm you if they're, if we're low on one solution or the other, or water. And then we also have this is kind of a newer system. It's our Chem Mixer 3.1 blending system. That's a little more economical, but doesn't have some of those alarms that the on-farm blending system would have. The brush system has a direct drive unit, so just less maintenance for the dairy and the dealer. Very few parts to carry, and then it also has a splash guard on there, so when that milker's using that brush, keeps the solution from running down into the arms of the milker, keeping them drier and cleaner as well. And milkers really appreciate that that part of the brush. So our direct drive unit, very easy to change the brushes. As you can kind of see, we have the one side is black, one side's white. So when you go to change brushes, you take the black brush, put it in the black hole, the white brush in the white hole. Very easy to change. so kind of streamline that process. This is just a picture of a 10-foot direct drive brush unit in action in a double 50 parlor. Just kind of give you an idea how it's used there. And then one of the options that's come out a few years ago that's been very popular is our dairy air on there. So what that does is actually when you're done using solution and go to the dry portion of the brushing, it's gonna blow some air through there on those teat ends, helping blow that moisture off and helping dry even faster than we could before. So here's a double 18 with a 10-foot dairy air direct drive brush in there. And you kind of see how clean the installation is with the cable up on top. Keeps everything out of the pit of the parlor. This is one of our control units, our Future Cow Elite. So the Elite programs have you can monitor by shift for cow scrub correctly and solution time, which is a pretty handy tool, management tool for you. You can see how each shift is doing with your Future Cow. This is the Dual Elite. Actually, it'll run 2 brushes. Again, has the cow counter and making sure your guys are brushing correctly. Just a couple more pictures with a dairy air with a 2 a.m. backup. And that 2 a.m. backup is for if your control unit would go down, you can plug a brush into that 2 a.m. And still be able to milk your cows until we can get that main unit back up and running for you. LT, this is runs 1 brush unit. Is built for 24 hours a day. Doesn't have the cow counter on it, but made for the 1 brush. And then, like I say, our 2 a.m. system, we use this for a backup in a lot of our larger setups. You can use the 2 a.m. system for those guys milking maybe just a couple hours a milking. Works very well as well, pretty economical to get a brush unit into some of those smaller dairies, maybe milking 2, 3, 4 hours a day. Now our Pro Series, this is new, our newer control units. So the Pro Series 3X and 6X, 3X obviously can run 3 brushes, 6X can run up to 6 brushes. So for those larger dairies, this was a kind of an economical way to get 1 control unit to run more brushes in your parlor. So this has been a huge seller for us this year. These programs, our control units have really taken off. And this just kind of shows the 3X, the 3 control boards inside there, being able to run the 3 brushes. And then the 6X, again, with the 6 control units inside, being able to run 6 brushes at a time as well. And with the 6X, you can actually, if you got a parlor maybe running 4 brushes, 5 brushes, you can put the 6X in. You got a spare or 2 in there, still be able to run your brushes in your parlor. And then our newest one just coming out as well is our 2X. So being able to run 2 brushes at a time, kind of like our Dual Elite, but without the cow counter. So you can run 2 brushes. So the Future Cow automation, just basically streamlining the udder prep. So we're taking that stimulation, the teat cleaning whole part of the parlor, and we're doing it in 1 step with the brush system. Kind of helping keep consistent, keep guys at some parlors we're able to take a guy out of the parlor, so it can save on cost as well. So there's a Future Cow and a 100 stall rotary, using 2 direct drive units there on the prep side. So what we're looking to do, as I touched a little bit on, as you can see, you got a lot of towels in that back room, some totes of dip, things like that. So we can clean that up with here. throw some control units up on the wall, get that brush system out. A lot of times keeping the parlor, the pit of the parlor a little cleaner as well, and keeping your guys consistent. And keeping those teed ends clean. So we, with all of our control units, we really do have a control unit for any size dairy. So from 50 cows to 10,000, we fit every size.
Yeah, I got a couple questions here. From my understanding, there's a bit of a program for how this works with for enrolling with a Future Cow. Can you educate us a little bit on the billing and the warranty process with Future Cow?
Yeah, so so how Future Cow works, once you purchase your equipment, the brush and the control units, it's $1 per cow monthly bill you would get, and that would include all warranty on any wear parts with your brushes, the replacement brushes in there, and then your solution going through the brush as well. So it's kind of more of a fixed cost. So what your cost is going to be on the pre side every single month, depending on how many cows you're running through.
And it's more on a per cow basis, and it's through the dealership, correct?
Correct. Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
One other thing is, I know you touched on some of the redundancy, but what would your suggestions be for having extra brushes? Is that part of the program? Is that something that maybe Central Ag Supply does on their own, or is that standard?
So what we always recommend is having, so if you have 1 drop or 2 drops in your parlor, to have a spare for that drop.
Okay.
And when I say a drop, just means a brush.
Yep.
That's kind of how the terminology we use. And then how that works is, if for some reason you have a brush go down, it's really easy to unplug that from your control unit, put the new brush on, get working, call Central Ag Supply, tell them, hey, I've got a brush down. They send it back to us. We fix whatever's wrong with it and send it back, and that's all part of that program. But yeah, we recommend when you're buying that equipment to have a spare for every brush that you're currently using.
Well, so we're trying to once again achieve 100% uptime and keep these guys going.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. That's
Yep.
awesome.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I'll leave you guys alone again.
Yep.
Well, looking at different types of automation, we touched a little bit about some things that we can do in the parlor when it comes to consistency and to prepping. And the other part of this is what do we do with that, and what other things can we really capture? We've really seen a push in the agricultural industry. I don't care if you're talking about how many seeds are planted per acre or what your NPK values are on your grid. We look at the stuff in the field one way. We look at what we can do in regards to our cows and our herd management and some things that way. Data is king. The more info we can get our hands on, the better decisions we can make. So in looking at that, one of the resources that GEA has is a Cow Scout system. And a neat thing about this is it doesn't matter what size herd you have. Anything you can know a little bit more about what Bessie's doing helps you be a better caretaker. And I don't know a dairy guy in the world or a dairy woman in the world that doesn't want to take better care of their cows. So really this takes that information and puts it in a system that helps you monitor what she's doing, when she's moving, when she's eating, and not needing to necessarily have people on watch outs. A lot of times we rely on the gather or the person that's bringing the cows into the parlor to notice that, number 417 isn't walking great today, but it would be kind of nice to know that coming into it. So we can keep an eye on her as she's entering into a parlor. But even in a tie stall barn too, there's not a lot of times that we keep them sitting there tied in, they're out and wandering around, is she pushing for feet at the bunk, or is she kind of laid back and relaxed? And so the neat thing with it is it's a product that we can really hit our ROI on. That's a term that your banker loves to say to you: how fast can you pay for your investment? This is one of those tools and those resources that really allows us to do that. So in looking at how this works, we mentioned before, we have a few options for where we can put the device on the cow. It's very common to use the neck tag like it's in the picture here because it does give us another option for a numbering system without needing to look up in her ear. This is real common in our parallel parlors, specifically because of how she sits. You can sit up in the front of the parlor and see all the number tags at the same time. It works well in a rotary as well because they're all facing the same direction. But the neat thing with it, it's not terribly complicated. It's not expensive. When you go to start up, we look at integration. It integrates into our dairy plan software that you're already using other places on the farm already from a parlor management situation. It's installed and supported by your GEA dealer. It's not another third-party vendor tech guy out there trying to sell you a fast little widget to keep an eye on things. My kids watched a video recently, and my son probably said it best. And he says, "Ma, it's a Fitbit for cows." And I said, "Yeah, that's really what it is." And I think about the fact that a 7-year-old can figure out what it's used for. It really kind of breeds to the simplicity of it. There's low maintenance costs with it. These batteries last 5 years plus. So, you don't have to worry about switching them out. By the time one needs them, you're probably going to be making a transition. And with how fast technology moves today, it's amazing how far we've came in 10 years, and really look at what your cell phone and things have done on how much longer you get battery life. It's kind of normality now. It's really able to be updated quite regularly when we look at software updates. It's really continuing to evolve that software thing. It's not like you get one set of software when you buy the system and that's it. It does continue to evolve, and you get some software downloads just like you do when you buy a new PC. So there's a few different ways of things we can set some. There's some preset systems in there set up with some charts and some graphs depending on your management style. They're added onto, they're customizable. You can get a gazillion reports if that's what you want. If you just want to watch 2 different things, you can set a report up for that, which really is nice to see with different varieties of management styles, or as we're transitioning to. So looking at what's really in this system, like I said before, it's kind of like a Fitbit for your cow. So it ties on either to her ankle, her neck, or her ear tag. It sends a signal, just like my watch does to my phone, to tell me how many steps I'm taking. It does that. It sends it to the antenna, goes through a little receiver, which is really anytime you have a remote tracking device, that's how it works. If you got a Roomba in your house, it's the same kind of a thing. It sends a signal back to that device, hooks it in through a processing system to a PC. It shoots it up into the cloud via internet connection. You can look at it on your phone, your tablet, in your herd management office, in the house, in Florida, while your herd's getting milked, maybe back in Wisconsin in those nice, wonderful winter months. So it does allow, for that flexibility, which is kind of a unique thing in it. This is kind of becoming a standardization, as we've made that transition from the tie stall barn into the parlor barn. Again, we have that desire to be close to our cows. We want to know what they're doing. We want to see how we can change what we're doing. So with that, we'll watch a little video here on the Cow Scout system. So as we talked about prior, there is quite a few different things that we can look at and a lot of reports. This is just a snapshot of one that was shown quickly. If you caught it in the video, it was panning. And really looking at some of the things that you can pick up on, heat detection, eating and rumination time are things that every herd health person and every herd person is interested in as well as your nutritionist in a lot of cases. So looking at this chart here, the blue vertical bars is the cow herself. The gray is the other cows that are in the herd, and then the bar across the top is the average of everything. So you can tell there's some orange dots there above 3 different days they're looking. It looks like the 20th, the 21st, and the 22nd, she was quite a bit less active than her peers. So what that'll tell you is, maybe she's not lame, but she doesn't have any visible signs of anything any different, but she's definitely slowed down in her eating. So maybe she's coming in, to heat, or maybe she's early on in some other situation, DA type of a situation. It could be an indicator that there might be something going on and the other side of things too, but it's definitely a change in trends. And with anything, the more we can catch those changes in trends, the better we can manage that herd. So just looking at some feedback on what this has done in some, other systems. The main thing is, that mobility. Everybody wants an app for that. This allows you to do that. That's usually the first thing we get asked is, well, that's cool. You got an app? And the answer to this is yeah, they do. And really looking at pregnancy rates and really looking at being able to monitor that herd health side of it. Again, as we made that transition into that freestall barn where they're free to go as they please, we do lose that. You're kind of sitting there and you walk in a freestall barn and it's just cows, and it's really hard to tell when somebody's not kind of cooperating quite like she used to be able to. So we do have another video here too along with that.
I was born on this farm in the house that Carl lives in now. My grandpa built that in 1896. From there on, my dad built this other barn in 1950, and they milked by hand till then. I think the first year he built the barn, we milked by hand. And then he put a milking machine in 51. 1980, I doubled the size of that barn, so I had room for 60 cows in there. We milked 3 times a day. And they didn't hardly have time to wash up between milkings. Then they decided to put in this 60 cow carousel. You got to keep up with the times. Seems like if you don't, you're going backwards.
I'm Carl Carlson. I'm a part owner with Carlson Dairy with my brother and my dad, and we have 1,800 cows. And I have a family that consists of Kelly, and we have 3 boys and 1 daughter. We ended up getting Cow Scout on our dairy because we purchased the Dairy Pro Q from GEA, and that system came with the parlor when we purchased it. Cow Scout was our first monitoring system. We did not have one before, so it was new to us, a new idea, and it's really helped us a lot as far as just seeing the activity as far as heats as well as eating time and rumination. Cow Scout has helped us in a few ways where we're able to monitor cow health a lot better. We can tell when a cow is not ruminating or her eating time is decreased. and it has also helped us in heat detection. We don't need a guy out here anymore monitoring the pens. It has increased our pregnancy rate from 25% to 33%. The biggest change we've made with Cow Scout would be just the heat monitoring, not having a guy that has to be looking at the pens and checking for heat. We have a separate heifer facility that's probably 500 feet or 1,000 feet from the barn, and we don't get over there very often, so it's able to alert us when heifers are in heat, and our heifer reproduction has really increased as far as we're able to get them bred when we want to. We're getting an earlier calving time with our heifers, and the amount of repeat breeders in our heifer barn has decreased a lot just because we're getting them bred at the right time. I think the biggest thing that Cow Scout has helped us as far as our goals was that we got our preg rate, you know, way above what we thought we could get it at, and that has allowed us to breed cows when we wanted to breed them instead of breeding them early just to make sure we get them pregnant. We're able to hold back on our voluntary waiting period, knowing that we will get her pregnant on that first or second service. I think the biggest thing with technology is that it makes it appealing for our kids that might be interested in coming back. I know the kids I got 2 in college right now, and they're excited to come back, and they're really excited to tell their friends or their professors and stuff what we got going on out here. So I think the biggest thing about being up to date with technology is it makes it appealing for the younger generation to, hey, this is an idea, this is something that we can do, and it's interesting to them, and makes it intriguing that maybe they would want to do this too someday.
Matt, I think you have some questions.
I do. Number one question I had that isn't actually listed there is, does it require dairy plan if I want Cow Scout?
I'm going to let Jeff speak to that.
No, you can view that without dairy plan. They do have it so we can integrate into dairy plan if we want to, but it can be a standalone system, which for somebody getting started with it makes it a little bit more economical getting into it.
Sure. Cool. And on that note, Jeff, I'll leave it with you. If I have multiple barns on my farm, per se a dry cow barn, a heifer barn, a close-up, what have you, can I make that work? Is there limitations, or can we just go anywhere with this?
Well, can be limitations with anything, but no, we can look for solutions, whether it be networking through bringing somebody in to help us with networking with wireless point-to-point, or if we have, sometimes we're lucky enough that there's actually extra conduits in the ground that go from one barn to another where we can actually pull wire. Absolutely. The other thing is we can do pastures, long range antennas. If we have dry cows that are out on pasture during the summertime, absolutely we can work with that and set the system up, whatever the farm has for any challenges. We can pretty much meet anything they got.
That's pretty awesome. If I purchase the Cow Scout tag system now, will the tags work with the ID system that I would put in my parlor?
Absolutely. Yeah, that has happened before, and it'll happen in the future. People looking to make changes, and sometimes it's just a little bit too much to bite. Maybe they have an existing facility, but it's ID is one, and the activity monitoring is another. Sometimes whichever one they want to start with first, we can do that and then grow into it.
That's pretty cool. So, all right, I think that's all I had for Cow Scout. Thanks, guys.
All right. Switching gears a little bit, we've been talking a lot about the conventional side because that's what a lot of us are, but we all know there's things that we haven't touched on. And one of them that we really want to focus in and kind of leave you, it's the thing we're the most excited about at GEA and with Central Ag as well, as they have a a recent acquisition of one of these facilities in the local area here too. And it's really a concept called a Dairy Pro Q. You'll hear us refer to it with the letters DPQ. It's just a shortened version, you know, typical agricultural equipment manufacturer using an acronym for something again. So what is that? Really what it is it's taking that robotic milking concept, which we all know, we're real familiar with the box concept. That was kind of the entry point into the robotics, and taking it and putting it on a conventional platform, of a rotary platform. And really it's using that same methodology that we do in a conventional and adding some automation aside of looking at future cow, but really taking care of it all on its own. And how does this thing work? So it's kind of a unique hybrid. It's an industry exclusive. When we look at this concept, and really it's taking, like I said, accepted methods of conventional, adding in the robotic accepted methods, and then something else that we have in there, you know, the letters FDA, we all know what they stand for. We do have, you know, FDA regulatory compliance here and approval on it, you know, to keep the GEA safe and secure milking process and moving it forward. So it's really allows you to capture some of those nice things that we get with robotics, the labor savings and the data collection, and putting it into a conventional type of a facility. And then we end up with this hybrid called a DPQ. So looking at where these are at, no surprise, the central part of the US is home to as many as everywhere else in the country. But there's a couple right here in Wisconsin. There's one in Minnesota and one out in the Dakotas. And you can see that they kind of vary in stall size. So that's one of the neat things about this is it doesn't necessarily need to be this mega farm concept. This is something that we can use on small and large scale farms. They're used, like I said, throughout the country. A little bit different housing, you know, when you go down to the south and out to the west. When you look at stuff like House Scout and monitoring, you know, we're definitely at outside unroofed facilities out there. So the New York facility, that one is set up and looks much similar to what we're used to here in the Midwest. So really kind of what is this? Like I said before, it's our robot arm on the rotary cabinet and on a rotary platform. So we're looking at, you know, we've kind of put the benchmark at 500, and really because the investment level, when we look at a DPQ versus a conventional rotary, you know, this is that next notch up. You know, this is the transition into the Cadillac from the Chevy, if you will. So there is a different price point there, but we can go down to 28 cows, which we have priced and looked at that end all the way up to 80. When we get past 80, some different things need to happen that we're exploring right now in regards to milk line and how we move the information back and forth. We really are limited on some network capabilities there, but eventually we will make that transition. So really looking at cows per hour and looking at minimizing labor. So this takes care of that for you. The neat thing with these, as I said, it gives you that box comfort of things happening on their own without needing the labor, but still offering the consistency that you're used to in your conventional setup. Labor cost is the main thing that folks usually kind of tie into here. So with that, we'll look at a quick video here. That is truly a remarkable thing if you haven't had an opportunity to see it. I think we've all kind of seen what robotics does in a box setting, but to be able to take that to the next level and really apply it to the larger scale without having to have, separate milk houses, it's not that there's nothing wrong with the box concept. We have a box option too that really hits it to a different farm size level and a management level. And if you're coming out of a larger scale conventional, but you want to look at that automation, this is a way to do that without necessarily having to add the labor costs. So one of the things that we did touch on in there that is part of our robotic milking process is GEA has an in everything liner. Again, it's one of those industry exclusive things. The way we get away with that labor savings is everything is done in this liner. So no future cow there. It's just something that comes in and it does everything that we would do manually. I kind of always laugh. You can tell who a dairy farmer is by looking at their hands because of all the years we've prepped cows. This is going to change that a little bit. So I'm just going to show you a quick video on how that works and what really goes on, because until you see it, it's a difficult thing to explain when I say everything happens in the liner. So let's take a look at that. So what it does, as it's stated there, it actually does everything that we would be doing manually. It does the strip, the prep, it attaches, a valve flips inside. The dirty milk at the beginning goes one direction. Once we get to the clean milk, goes the other direction. When we're done, it post dips. When those cups drop down, everything is done and ready to go. So you think about how many stations that takes up in a parlor, and it really takes care of that for you. But kind of to touch on what we touched on the beginning of this is it's really taking those conventional processes and just automating them. The process is still happening in the same place when we look at we call it the circle or the wheel when we're looking at a rotary. And it really, the stuff's still getting done in the same spot. So if the cow was on a conventional rotary, those same processes would be happening in that same time position as they're rotating. So it does allow for a real quiet, streamlined environment with a consistency that doesn't have human error in place. Everything is done for us. So looking a little bit deeper at some things that are specific to that DPQ, we talk about this time of flight camera, and really that's GEA's technology as the arm comes over to attach to the teat. And so the unique thing about it is that it does allow for a little bit of variation. A lot of times teats need to be perfect in order to be able to utilize robotics. That camera allows for a little bit more deviation in how it's looking for it. The back flush, like I stated, when we look at doing everything in that liner, it really takes care of everything, cleans it out as we're switching cows. It comes back over when she's done and gets the flush so that as it goes to be reinstalled onto that X cow, everything is as clean as it can be. It's easy to add on, to put this in. It goes in much like a conventional parlor would. The cabinet is very similar. It's just a hybrid of what's used in our box setting, set on a rotary deck. And as I said before, it doesn't need to be a huge wheel here. We go all the way down to a 28 stall. So if you're looking at, you're between that 500, 1,000, 1,200 cow, want to add some automation, take some labor savings, and be able to capitalize on that. This is a neat option for that without having to go into a conventional and add up. You can start here and then be able to utilize some of that other data point. Crowd gate controls on this, just like it is on a conventional barn. You can throw her wherever you need to as she's exiting. It functions very similar to what our T88 and T8900 do. Couple other little things that are specific to the DPQ. There is some stuff that we can upgrade to after we kind of get going and get familiar. If there is a desire for more information, there is a somatic cell count sensor upgrade kit, as well as some pulsation monitoring. You know, being that you're not down there and you're kind of watching from a room, I guess, in a corner, these are kind of some neat things too that help you monitor that herd health and that system as a whole, and really kind of, you know, as Dad said, work smarter, not harder. This does that to a T. It really allows you to manage it in a little bit different format than what you've done in the past. With anything, it has software. Use the FarmView app. Usually what I'll see is there's some computer screens up in the herd management office, and then they're positioned around. Again, another unique thing with our robotics is that if for some reason there's one that doesn't attach right, it's a simple hit a button and a person can manually attach it. So we look at the amount of cows that take to the box or take to a box or to the DPQ. The success rate there is very high. And you can see here, there's a little graphic in the middle. There's a couple red stalls. If something didn't cooperate the way it was supposed to there, it just gives you a quick identifier so you know what to do. Again, you just touch the screen and everything flows through, much like it would on your cell phone. Real intuitive system there, as it is on all of our platforms. So got another quick video here for you to take a peek at.
Advancements in automation are changing the face of agriculture into a high-tech industry. A technological revolution is occurring as machines and technology develop at speeds not seen in agriculture since the Industrial Revolution. GEA is at the forefront of the revolution with our innovative Dairy Pro Q technology, a hybrid of robotic and conventional milking systems designed to bring you the best of both worlds. The GEA Dairy Pro Q is a unique system because it allows you to gain the benefits of consistent, reliable milking with all the animal data associated with a traditional box robotic milking facility, all while allowing you to continue using your proven management strategies. As soon as cows enter the rotary, the robot begins to attach the teat cups. This is followed by GEA's inliner everything prep procedure to ensure proper cleanliness and stimulation prior to milking. Inliner everything streamlines the prep process with one easy attachment. It also prevents the risk of attaching and milking a cow that has not been cleaned or prepped, which can occur in other systems on the market that use a secondary cleaning system such as teat prep cups or cleaning brushes. Available in sizes from 28 to 80 stalls, the GEA Dairy Pro Q is generally suited for herds over 500 cows. A new half-load option is now possible, which means we can size a 28-stall rotary with 14 robot stalls to start. This allows your business room to grow without substantial investment or renovations. It also creates a new dynamic for small to medium-sized herds to adapt automation in a way that previously was not realistic. Labor efficiency can be maximized when the Dairy Pro Q is utilized to its full potential. One parlor manager can handle all parlor side operations while a second employee brings up cows and maintains stalls. Group size can be allocated to make milking wait times essentially non-existent. It is possible to obtain speeds of over 600 cows per hour in ideal conditions. At the heart of every Dairy Pro Q stall is the milk module, a removable service drawer containing many of the milk handling sensors and components and basic equipment such as the meter and pulsator. This drawer is designed for easy removal to allow scheduled maintenance to be performed in a service room, while the rotary continues to turn and milk cows. This also allows the operator to swap out a spare unit when necessary, minimizing downtime and avoiding excessive service calls. Every Dairy Pro Q installation features a GEA-designed service room. This is a clean room with test facilities to ensure that modules have been maintained and repaired correctly before going back into service. Spare parts and mobile diagnostic tablets are kept here as well. As the Dairy Pro Q features a substantial number of sensors to ensure milk quality and animal health, there is a large amount of data available to you. This data can be combined with GEA herd management software and intelligent sorting systems to make efficient and effective decisions in handling cows in need of attention. For example, if for any reason a cow did not complete milking or requires operator attention, she can be sorted into a pen that easily allows for a repeat visit on the rotary. This way, she does not hold up other cows or affect throughput. Cows can also be sorted into vet check areas for breeding, preg checks, or other health evaluations, just as they normally would in a conventional parlor. One of the largest benefits of the Dairy ProQ system is that very few herd management changes outside of the parlor area are required. You can feed, breed, and perform vet checks just as you always have. And you can clean stalls and maintain the housing area just like you do in your current facilities. As technology transforms the dairy industry, adoption of robotics is becoming the norm, not the exception. An industry leader for over 100 years in the milking equipment business, GEA continues to forge ahead of the industry with innovative solutions. This innovation, combined with the strength of our dealer network, makes GEA the ideal technology partner for you and your dairy business. GEA, automating your dairy into the future.
That video does a neat job kind of summing it up. We do have some computer generated pieces that we can add as we start to talk about facility design and layout, and they touched on it a little bit there. You don't need to change the freestall barn.
Right.
You don't need to make any of these other large changes. It's really just a changing to the milking center itself. And as touched on, you can keep a lot of your same herd management practices. They all flow the same way as they did in a lot of the conventional facilities. So let's look at some customer thoughts on it. Again, I know there's a lot of reading here, but just kind of touching on some main points. Looking at profitability and cows getting in and out. That's one of the downfalls when we look at robotics is there's a time associated with it. As we've gotten accustomed to, and folks that milk cows on a regular basis have, attach times down to 2 seconds. I mean, you saw the robotics are doing it in 13 seconds, and that I could probably stand in a parlor and it wouldn't be uncommon to see 10 with a human being doing it. So as we add that automation, be able to keep that speed is usually the concern. Another person here is talking about the consistency with less labor. I don't know a farmer out there that has an excessive labor pool to pull from. Everybody is looking at that number shrinking, or people that want to be around this shrinking. So this allows for an opportunity to continue that same size herd level without necessarily having to add head count. Hoffman's up there, are talking about a lot of the data, again, looking at taking those data points that we get from that robotics individual box and then adding it to that larger scale. So with that, I'll let Jeff talk a little bit more here on this next slide. This is Central Eggs installation here locally in southern Wisconsin.
Yeah, we worked with the Bondlander family, Clover Hill Dairy, to install a 50 stall Dairy ProQ. They were, in essence, milking in 2 parlors. They were milking in a double A parlor and a double 14 parlor, and we were able to transition them. It took some planning. We had a few little trials to go through, but the facility has been milking cows since the middle of June. The animals transitioned very well. We've got a lot of great support from GEA during our transition period. I think we're up to at or a little over 2,000 cows right now that they're milking on the rotary. And when we started, it was a little under 1,900, and we transitioned from that in approximately 10 days. We had all the cows going across the rotary, which is pretty phenomenal. And the cows are doing well. We're like anything else that's new, we're learning, the farm is learning, but we're looking, and it's getting better every single day, and we're looking for good things in the future.
The unique thing about that is it's, you look at that transition time and you're thinking 10 days and that's quite expedited by normal. This is 10 days from cows that weren't on a rotary
Right.
prior. So we had the rotary adjustment plus robotic adjustment, which was by far the fastest we've seen yet. Obviously, as they mentioned, we've all learned a lot through this process, but the dealership has done a phenomenal job teaching and training on the farm. You saw a little piece in that video clip about that second room. That's a room that's used quite extensively by everybody as they learn to understand who's doing which part of which thing. And as we work through this to keep their rotary, the DPQ functioning, and it really, it's been fairly flawless. I don't want to say knock on wood, but it's awesome to have one of these success stories. You start to look at, there wasn't a lot of dots on that map, obviously, with what dairy prices have been doing. Trying to make that transition has been difficult for a lot of people on infrastructure, but to have one of those success stories here and have it be local and close to home and with the family that a lot of us know is even more exciting to see. I know Sarah's really enjoyed a lot of the data that she's gotten out of this thing, and she loves to watch those cows and see them come around and pick up on those pieces. So thank you guys for the opportunity to work with you on that and the farm as well. I know we've all enjoyed it.
Yes. It was a very good project to be part of.
Actually, we got a question here that I think is more in Scott's wheelhouse.
Perfect.
Is there some specific hygiene products or cleaning or whatnot that goes along with the robotics?
Yeah, so we have a couple different T-tips that we formulated to be able to get the coverage and the cleaning on the pre-side that we want to, and on the post side going through mechanics. So it's a little bit different viscosities than just your normal T-tips because we're running it through mechanically. So we do have some options on the pre-side. We have, we generally use hydrogen peroxide, either 0.5% or 1% on the pre-side. And then on the post side, we have a couple different iodine options as well. So you're not limited just to one dip pre and post. We do have some other options, but they are designed specifically to run through the mechanics of the robots.
Sure, cool. Question specifically Clover Hill. How many cows are they milking? I think you answered right around 2,000.
Yep.
And how many cows an hour about are we milking?
I'd have to go back and look, but we've got to be closer to 300 or better per hour. And the neat thing about watching rotaries work is you can definitely tell by age group, which, our younger ones, we spin it a little bit faster. They can milk a little bit quicker, but they like to get on at a set rate, and we don't want to slow it up.
And I remember I was helping you train out there, and we definitely had more luck with the heifers than
Yes.
tricks, right?
Yeah.
So I might want to just ask on that. So you talk about spinning that rotary, whether it's our Dairy Pro Q or conventional. So is there an option to spin those by group at different speeds?
Absolutely. That can be preset, can actually be a little bit adjusted on the fly, but it can be set up per group in Dairy Plan, so that as each group comes on to the rotary, it'll adjust itself. And because that is one of the key things about any type of rotary function is keeping that wheel spinning as smoothly and at as consistent rate as possible. The cows like it. Cows, every time I go to see a rotary, it just amazes me. It doesn't matter, it seems how long, after our first transition into it, they absolutely love to get on these machines and just ride them around. And if you would let them, I think they would stay on it for a couple of rotations.
Usually it takes some coaxing to get them off on occasion. But, when you talk about consistency there too, it's not just the cow's consistency, it's consistency in that milk room.
Yep.
We don't want to be slugging coming in. Anything we can do to keep that flow as steady as it can be to get the max cooling and max loading, everything, it helps everything significantly.
That's a great question, Scott. Jeff, could you touch on a little bit, when we get into a Dairy Pro Q, is it truly robotics as thinking as in boxes, or is Dairy Pro Q just more of an automated parlor?
Yeah, I think that was Steph was talking about that before, and I very much so. It's going to allow people that, or maybe a farm is set up in a way that that's their management style. We're uh, larger farms, or sometimes if you want to go into, we got to look at everybody as a whole. Sometimes their facility won't just allow everything to go to a completely different style of milking without major capital investment into new barns and things of that nature. So, yes, we look at what everybody's management style is and kind of help guide them, but the Dairy Pro Q will fit in with your conventional existing facilities very well.
Sure. The market for Dairy Pro Q and maybe we can extend this to Rotary. I know we're a little bit different in our demographic here. We don't have the presence of the circles. Do you see the future in whether it be DPQ or just a conventional Rotary?
Yeah, I do feel it trending that way a little bit more. A lot of it has to do with cow flow and consistency. I really do feel that our cow flow with watching animals enter and exit on a rotary is just smoother. Another thing is that we have ways of doing it. We've done it on a couple of different facilities. On our management on the backside of it, a rotary is a natural way of lending into we'll say a single return. We can bring cows off. We can run them through one management area with a short gate, and we can get everybody located where on our many of our parallel structures or line type parlors, unless we do some creative things at the front of the parlor, we create them areas on both sides of the parlor, and then that adds into construction costs and also management duties for people to be working on. And it's usually one herdsman's got to kind of run back and forth between both sides. So a lot of stuff goes into playing into it.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I'm going to get into talking just a little bit more about Central Ag Supply here. I'm curious. It was asked a couple times regarding scheduled service programs and maintenance programs, and I know we touched a little bit on the liner exchange programs. What are some of those services that we offer within Central Ag Supply to really take that stress level off the dairymen and help them go to the next level?
Well, I feel like on the maintenance side of things, I'll speak a little bit. We do run a very good scheduled maintenance program. People that sign up with us for our service, our team will get out to the farm. We'll take a look at their equipment. Doesn't matter if it's GEA related or if it's competitive equipment. There's nothing really out there that scares us. We're going to maintain it. We'll work with the farm to custom build what they want us to do and how to keep them up and going. Matt referred to it before as that 100% uptime. We're trying to keep the downtime to a minimum or the best we can. Emergency costs are just on the maintenance side of things are just a huge factor in life on the dairy farm. So we want to keep that to a minimum. The other part of that is just absolutely working as much as we can with training the dairymen. They can be their own best advocate for keeping costs down on the farm, and we do the best we can to teach them.
Great. Scott, do you have anything to add on the route side?
Yeah, I guess I would add the way Central Ag runs their routes. They have some traditional routes where they still offer those same services as like the liner exchange program, whether you're 30, 50 cows up to 5,000 cows, running Central Ag runs that program on their route, and then also making sure that, everything's worry-free, hassle-free, keeping your teat tips full, your detergents full, just doing some simple checks with whether it's pumps, any of that on their route service, whether it be your traditional route or your pre-sale delivery route guys. Central Ag does a great job keeping those guys.
So we're truly a team member of the farm.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Yes, absolutely.
That's awesome. And you touched on something kind of important to Central Ag. I know with the traditional routes, we're not just about the big guy. I feel like we take care of everyone, and you're just as important. Your phone call doesn't matter how many cows are on your farm.
Yep.
Nobody will be forgotten with us. one note that we didn't have in the presentation. Do we still offer automatic calf feeders? What's that world like? I mean, I know we stay in the dairy barn a little bit, but sometimes we can walk across the driveway and take care of the future of our herd.
Yeah, there still is a calf feeder in the offering. As far as the specifics, I am not the person that is the guru on that. I am not going to even pretend to be, but yes, there is still options there. There's a couple different options. It really, again, it's back on management style. How much of involvement do you want? Do you want to have the calves come up by themselves, or do you want to be involved with ensuring that they're drinking? There is management software there too, even on the little ones. It's like, I want to call it a mini Cow Scout, but it's kind of like what it is to make sure that they're all drinking and growing as the way they should. I'll let Jeff speak a little bit more on it.
Well, everything's changing, and there's offerings out there. The biggest thing is make contact with us.
Yes.
Let's get out to your farm and decide what you need, because automatic calf feeding, are we going to do raw milk? Are we going to do powder milk? Are we going to, how are we going to set up the barn? I go back into a lot of layout things. Sometimes it sounds like a broken record, but I really feel that the piece of equipment is only one step into it. Working with a farm right now, ventilation. I mean, is a big key to that piece of equipment is the ventilation in that barn and how we take care of the sanitation of the equipment that's in the barn. So it's not just like anything else we've been talking about, it's not always one size fits all. So we got to look at the whole thing. But yes, GEA does offer calf feeding, automated calf feeding, and it's the portfolio is just going to continue to grow over time.
One last question actually popped in. This is going to be with you, Scott, a little bit. I know that we offer a little bit more advisory role services to some of our progressive dairies. What are some of the things that we can offer when we come in there for milking analysis and milk quality and cleanliness of equipment?
Sure. Yeah. So we, GEA partners with Central Egg Supply to do some of those things and just come, we'll do parlor audits or our farm audits, checking some pulsation, make sure your pulsation's set correctly for your liner that you're using, checking some, peak claw flows, milk flows, looking at your consistency of your whole prep procedure, just really looking at your overall, dairy, the whole milking routine from start to finish and seeing where there could be improvements or how you're doing on that.
Sure. And then we also encourage, I think, to work with some third-party advisors on the farm.
Correct.
A lot of dairymen like to have different opinions and make sure that, we're crossing our T's and dotting our I's and it's a little bit of a checks and balance. And we encourage that because it's a team approach.
Absolutely.
We're only human, right? And sometimes we get to experience different things. More eyes on the farm. Your vehicle pulled to the left, but you didn't notice until your wife drove it, right? So, it's just a little bit different. So, so as far as that goes, I think we're wrapping it up. I don't know if you guys have any other notes, but I want to remind everybody to please complete the survey that'll appear at the end of this presentation. We also encourage you to visit our website to check out other open house details and discounts and the discounts from our open house at centralagsupply.com. On behalf of Central Ag Supply, I would like to thank our presenters, Steph, Scott, and Jeff. You guys did an amazing job. I really appreciate your time. Thanks for attending this webinar. We appreciate you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us in this learning event. Take care and have a very Merry Christmas and stay safe.
Thanks.
Thank you.